It's his service to bark, to alert the mott members that there may be someone coming who should not be here. It's a service on some level, right? So it's a touch with the Nirguna plane because there's the deity, the Vaishnavas, etc. Guru Maharaj said when the birds, they're looking for a place to land on the temple, and by doing so, they're circumambulating, right? That would be this way, right? So they're circumambulating the deity and Tulsi and the devotee, and then they land. So then they think, well, how powerful is this connection with the Nirguna plane? Guru Maharaj said, if someone in an act of the mode of goodness, which would be to provide water for thirsty people, so they make a water fountain. Right? That's mode of goodness. He said, but if a pure Vaishnava comes and quenches their thirst at the water fountain, it's now touched to the Nirguna plane. Their intention was, this is a good thing for people. I don't expect anything from it, just it would be nice. It's a gesture. But a pure Vaishnava comes and quenches their thirst from that fountain. Now there's a touch with the Nirguna plane. So Mahaprabhu is telling Rupa Goswami, in other words, in the world of misconception, this place where people are fantasizing, being competitors of Krishna, right? Jalaja navalakani stavara lakavingshati. Right? As there are 3 primary colors, and from them you can make millions of variations. 3 modes of nature, you can make millions of variations, and different species, different levels of conscious development. Right? And all, according to Guru Maharaj, the soul cannot actually operate here. Right? So what does it need to be able to do that? To entertain this fantasy, what he calls chidabhas, chayabhas, a shadow-like self, a shadow of consciousness. Right? So that in this body, with gross body, subtle body, mind, intelligence, ego, this is the biological expression of the soul's delusion, and allows it to navigate the interface of objective reality, which Srila Guru Maharaj says, the whole objective world is like an iceberg floating in an ocean of consciousness. So within that plane, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Mahaprabhu is saying, fortunate souls, Guru Krishna Prasadipai, by the mercy of Krishna, they'll come in connection with his agent. Nirguna agent. Guru Krishna Prasadipai. And what do you get from the agent? The seed, Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed of Krishna conception. It's a conceptual seed. As mentioned in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hrida. Gurudev liked to express it as a heart-to-heart transaction. Right? It is not data transfer or information. That's why you say, there's so many things available on the internet or online. It is not data transfer or information, mere information. Hearing this information, then you'll get it. No, it has to be imparted with a particular quality of heart, because the original source is not heartless. The original source has heart, right? Infinite heart, capable of reciprocating the aspirations of all hearts simultaneously. So what's coming from that plane into this plane through the agent, the Nirguna agent? Saying, then you come in connection with that, get the Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed of this prospect. Right? This world based upon exploitation. intellectually, you can come to the conclusion that you should withdraw from exploitation. But that does not give one dedication. Right? So exploitation, renunciation, dedication. From a dedicating agent, bhaktya, sanjataya bhaktya, from that agent they can awaken, give birth to, awaken devotion in another. That's the heart-to-heart transaction. The conceptual seed, seed of Krishna conception, transferred from the heart of Krishna's devotee into the heart of an aspiring servitor. So, they say, not a blade of grass moves without the will of God. Yeah, that is in a general sense. Right? As we said, facilitating. But we're interested in the possibility of this heart-to-heart transaction. As Guru Maharaj said, quoting one Bengali poet, if the word cultivate, saying like when you plant seeds in soil and then something grows from there. He said, then what sort of fruit is the heart as soil capable of producing? Then it depends on the quality of the seed planted in that soil. Right? So it says, Bhakti Lata Beads, that means, by inference, Krishna conception. It means the Krishna conception of the conceiver transmitted to the receiver of that. Right? And what makes the transaction meaningful? Service and association. Association implies service. Right? So, we have to accept the responsibility for the karmic circumstance that we find ourselves in. Right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur deals with the various questions that might arise from this, and Jaiva Dharma, where someone's saying, well, why did Krishna make us in a way that we could choose the wrong thing? Guru Maharaj quotes Gandhi saying, when the British said the Indians are not fit for self-rule, in other words, they may misuse their independence. He said, freedom means the right to do wrong. Right? So then he said, all right, but why do we have to be in these pastimes that have suffering? Why couldn't it be some other kind of pastimes? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, name one of the pastimes that doesn't have suffering. Mother Yashoda is crying her eyes out in separation from Krishna. The gopis are broken-hearted in separation from Krishna. Right? So, Bahye Vishajalahoy Bitare Anandamoy Krishna Premier Adbhuta Charit. This is the wonderfully astonishing quality or characteristic of Krishna Prem, as that even in so-called suffering, there is this peculiar type of enjoyment. So for whatever question comes, he gives an answer. And he's saying, and if as fire purifies gold, right, then if the so-called fire or suffering in material existence brings the soul to the golden self, how is that objectionable? Right? I've mentioned I lived in San Francisco near the fire chief's house. There was like the firehouse and the fire chief's house. And they had this brass plaque with an inscription on it that they kept very shiny. And it said, by fire, remember they're firemen. It said, by fire shall hearts be proven, lest virtue's gold grow dim. And they kept it very shiny. By fire shall hearts be proven, lest virtue's gold grow dim. And Bhakti Vinod, Jaiva Dharma. Similar sort of thing. So, and when it comes to conceiving of the mercy of Krishna, we find in the Bhagavatam and more recently in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Gadadhar Pandit and Mukunda went for the darshan of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. From a superficial point of view, he appeared to be the opposite of a Vaishnava. So if you're carrying a stereotype in your mind about what is a Vaishnava, what is Guru, what is Krishna conception, he appeared to be antithetical or the opposite of that, presenting himself as a Bishai, or a sense enjoyer. We're told with, sitting on a jeweled palanquin, silk cushions, oiled curling hair, perfumed, smoking a hookah, chewing pan, and then reflecting of spittoons, monitoring, apparently enjoying his own beauty. And Mukunda Dutt, who knew him from their hometown of his glorious position, brought Gadadhar Pandit to see him on the premise that he had not yet taken initiation and he should meet a substantial Vaishnava. And when Gadadhar Pandit saw the external appearance of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, there was some doubt and apprehension on his part. And seeing that, Mukunda thought, oh, I need for him to come out. Right? The inner man. I need the inner man to come out. Right? So the slokas, they are live stream reality. They're not something written in a book from a long time ago, although that may be true from an external point of view. They're live stream reality for those who have the capacity to enter into that stream, that flow. And Mukunda Dutt knows that. So and that flow is alive in him as well. So that flow comes out of Mukunda Dutt, and he knows that Pundarik Vidyanidhi, this will bring out the inner man. Right? So he chooses this a verse that is saying, if you want to understand something about how merciful is Krishna, when you think of all these different situations, your own situation, the situation of the world, all those who have lived in the world, and all the different possibilities there may be, what sort of merciful Lord is Krishna? What might you expect from his side? He says, So he quoted the verse, Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigam sayapayaya dapyasadvi lebhegatim datri uchitam tatonyam kamba dayalum sharanam brajema. Who is a more merciful Lord than Krishna? And this caught the attention of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And he's singing, Kamba dayalum sharanam brajema. Who is more merciful than Krishna? He's saying that Putana, Rakshasi, she, what would you call her? A sorceress, witch, enlisted by Kamsa to kill Krishna. And she took the form of this beautiful, buxom girl, nurse, and came to the nursery of Yashoda. And Yashoda Mai and Rohini, they're speaking, they say, oh, such a nice girl. And she's saying, where, can I see the baby? Yeah, oh, he's in there, And she approaches Krishna, takes the little baby, Krishna, on her lap, pushes his mouth to her breast, when the nipple is anointed with poison, was it datura, one of those, poison. And that's her idea, is the little baby will suckle her breast, suck the poison, and die. But what does Krishna do? He takes the poison, the milk, then her pran, her life air, as she's suffocating, she's trying to push Krishna away. She loses the ability to maintain that particular rupam, form, and starts expanding, like, it says, you could say, 10 kilometers size. And now she's turned and showing this hideous figure, and she falls over on her back. And then Krishna, who's on the breast, is like cushioned, the blow, so he's safe, some like milk, laughing, and the people go, oh, we're so fortunate. We must have done many pious acts in our previous lives, that she fell on her back and cushioned the blow for the child, otherwise he would have been crushed. But why is he introducing this? To say, if you want to understand something about how merciful is Krishna, then let's start here. Here's someone who approaches him with murderous intentions. And what is his response? She's liberated, she achieves liberation, and achieves a position like that of mother. Right? So, the point being, if this is the fate of his enemies, of those who approach him with ill motives, with bad intentions, then what to speak of someone who Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur just takes it to the next level of saying, what about just neutral? Neutral would have to get a superior result to that. And then dasyam, servitorship, superior result. Sakyam, friendship, a superior result. Vatsalya, it's always going in a particular direction. So by the time you reach the highest position, it's inconceivable what sort of reciprocation there would be. Pundarik Vidyanidhi, this verse taking him deep into his heart's core of his Krishna conception. He's saying, Kamba dayalum sharanam brajema. Who's more merciful than Krishna? And throwing the hookah, the pillows, pulling his hair, his body shivering in ecstasy, ecstatic tears pouring from his eyes in this sort of remembrance of Krishna, falling out of the palanquin onto the ground into a 9-hour ecstatic trance. Right. 9 hours in a death-like ecstatic trance. And what does that mean? So deep on the other side as to only allow for the minimum here to just keep the body somehow still alive. Not that he is unconscious. He's supremely conscious in the upper world. And just so that what's left behind is just barely sustained. And then we're told, Gadadhar Pandit is thinking, oh, what have I done? I thought I had offensive thoughts about a substantial devotee, a higher devotee. Who knows what is my fate? And then we're told that if you will take initiation, then the Guru does not take any offenses. The disciple is forgiven of all offenses by accepting them as disciple. And when he's asking for permission from Mahaprabhu, Gadadhar Pandit, none other than Srimati Radharani, that Mahaprabhu says, of course, Pundarik, who is Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Krishna Lila, Vrishabhanu Maharaj, your father. So of course, that's a good choice for you. So, how merciful he is to his devotees. Because they're totally surrendered to Krishna. Krishna is totally surrendered to them. When he says, Ye yatamam prapadyante tangstateva bhajamyaham. As they surrender to me, I reciprocate that. You find in the prayers of Srila Rupa Goswami, Chaitanyastakam, he says, Swarupam Bibrano Jagatatulyam Advaita Dvaita Prapano Srivaso Paramananda Janita Paramananda Gaurima Harir Dinodari Gajapati Kripo Teka Tarala Sat Chaitanya Kame Chaitanya Kame Vishwarapina Yasadivadam. Yasadivadam. He's praising Srivas Thakur, Prapana, Guru Maharaj is sometimes giving this term, Prapana Srivasa, the surrendered Srivas Thakur. We find that when Mahaprabhu, we heard recently when we were on Navadipta Mahatmyam about the Kirtan at the Srivas Sangam, meaning the Panchatattva, that in one sense is the beginning of the Nam Sankirtan movement from the house of Srivas Thakur, and how dedicated, exclusive is his devotion to Mahaprabhu, that even when his son died during one of their nocturnal kirtans, that he did not allow that news to come to the ear of Mahaprabhu so that he would not be disturbed in any way. And then later when Mahaprabhu discovers, he sends for that boy, he's brought back to life. That's another pastime. But Mahaprabhu himself is, overwhelmed and astonished by the sort of devotion that Srivas Thakur says to him. And he's wondering, as he observes him, that he sees that he doesn't go anywhere. There's like Srivas Sangam, he has this family, and it's not like he has a job somewhere and then he comes back home to Srivas Sangam. So Mahaprabhu says, you don't go anywhere. or you don't like, he's wondering about his occupation. And Srivas Thakur said, like, I don't like to go anywhere. He's saying, all right, but then you don't go anywhere, all right, so what about taking care of your family? I mean, if you don't do anything that will bring an income to take care of your family, then maybe you should take sannyas. Srivas Thakur says, that I can't do. So Mahaprabhu was saying, so you don't go anywhere, you don't have a job, but you're not going to take sannyas, then how is this go on? Do you take? And he said, oh, I have this very simple program. He said, what is that? And he said, I go. And Mahaprabhu was saying, well, what program is that? And he's saying, if you get whatever you're sort of destined to get, that will come to you. And if 3 days in a row should come where there is nothing, then my vow is I'll tie a weight around my neck and go drown myself in the Ganga. If that doesn't happen. And this captures the attention of Mahaprabhu. And he says to him, he said, don't you remember what I said in Bhagavad Gita? Ananyas chintayantumam ye jana paripasate tesham satyayuktanam yogapkshemam vahamyam. Whatever a devotee might be lacking, I carry it myself. I bring it personally. I take care of them. And he said, and I'm telling you, if Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, if she has to go out begging, you and your family will never be without. So when Mahaprabhu realizes the sort of devotees he had, he is completely purchased by them. And his promise in the Gita, as they surrender to me, I reciprocate that. Guru said, you become Krishna's slave, Krishna becomes the slave of the devotee. The infinite comes under the control of the finite. Yet, we find that in the pastimes with the Braja Gopis, we said before, by fire shall hearts be proven, lest virtue's gold grow dim. That Napareham nirabadi samyujam. After Krishna witnesses the degree of surrender and unconditional love and affection the Braja Gopis have for him, he admits defeat and says, I cannot reciprocate what you have. It's too great. Even if I give myself to you whole, it would be insufficient. So, and Guru Maharaj uses this expression there, he's saying, Krishna telling the Gopis, let virtue be its own reward. Which may not make them feel happy. To let virtue be its own. No, we want you. Ahuschate nalinanava padaravindam yogeshware hridivachintam agarabodhaya. Sangsara kupa patito taranavalam geham jasamapi manasuriya sadhana. The Braja Gopis say, before, when they meet at Kurukshetra, before you sent Uddhava with this message, when we're feeling deep separation from you, telling us we should learn yoga and how to meditate, and Gyan, how to see the world and God and everything, everywhere and everything, and we didn't like hearing that. In fact, it just made us angry. Now, I mean, he said, now you're saying the same thing. He said, we're not yogis, we're gopis. We're not Gyanis, we're gopis. And whatever, Sangsara Kupa. We're fallen householders, is basically what they say. That's who we are. So yoga and that's of no use to us. And we don't know why you're playing with us in this way. But we won't be satisfied with anything less than you. That is our heart's aspiration. Ahushchate nanilnava padarvinam. When Srimati Radharani says, normally people, their mind and their heart are considered one and the same. My heart and Vrndavan are one and the same. In that sense, Vrndavan is a construct of her heart. Now we're back to the heart transaction, but on another level. Do you think? And when your lotus feet, where I want them back in Vrndavan, I want them in that place. And Krishna says, Mayi bhakti eri bhutanam amritatvaya kalpate dishya marashin matsneho bhavatinam madapana. In this world, the karmis, they want me, like we were talking in the beginning, what? Impending karmic reactions. Then we're running to Krishna. God, save us from ourselves, basically. Karmis, Gyanis, Yogis, Krishna saying, they all want me. And if they get me, they think, yam labdva chapram labdham manite nadikam tata. There's nothing greater than this. And that is true. That is good for them. He's saying, but what about me? He said, I consider myself, my good fortune is that I'm the object of the pure love and affection that is in your hearts. That's what he tells them. And that's why they're exalted above all others. So, but that same Srivas Thakur, who knows all these things, when he's with Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar and the others at Rath Yatra, and they're celebrating these very pastimes, right? Which are the supreme expression of heart, right? And the heart's inner necessity. As Mukunda Dutt brought out Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Srivas Thakur's target is to bring out Swarup Damodar and Mahaprabhu's presence. So they're celebrating these Rath Yatra pastimes, and then the Hera Panchami comes. And before the return Rath Yatra, we're told that the goddess of fortune, after a few days, Krishna's proposal was that he wanted just a gracious visit to his hometown in the company of his brother and sister, so nothing to worry about. After a few days, goddess of fortune is saying, like, what is the attraction of this hometown, Vrndavan? Remember, Radharani said, for most, their heart and mind, my mind and my heart, mind and Vrndavan are identical. Radha Padman Kitadam Vrndavan Jaranam. Vrndavan is that soil embellished by the lotus footprints of Srimati Radharani. So after a few days, the goddess of fortune is suspicious and summons her attendants and decides to go and retrieve Dwarka Krishna Jagannath. And this festival, described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, has Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar, Srivas Thakur, they're all watching this. And it's described, again, in real time. It doesn't say they're seeing a representation of this. It's described in real time, what they're seeing. And she comes showing unparalleled opulence in her dress and riding a chariot, palanquin, with so many dancers, singers, attendants. And they come and demand that Krishna come out. And at that time, they're abusing the servitors of Jagannath, beating them, calling them ill names. And we're told that Mahaprabhu and his devotees, they're watching this and like smiling and giggling and covering their faces. It's giving them so much joy and delight to see this. And at that time, so many things are discussed there, but Srivas Thakur, he wants Swarup Damodar to come out with this superior spiritual substance. So he teases him by saying, "Look, behold the opulence of the goddess of fortune." And remember, Srivas Thakur is Nard Muni, so he's very familiar with Vaikuntha. He said, "Look at the opulence of the goddess of fortune, unparalleled." He said, "And what do the gopis have? What's the pull, the charm of Vrndavan?" They're milk cows. It's a rural environment, like trees, river, what else? Fruits, flowers. But look at the goddess of fortune that they can't match, come anywhere near this type of opulence, Aishwarja. At which time Mahaprabhu tells Srivas Thakur, he's saying, "Be careful what you say in front of Swarup Damodar. He's a Shuddha Brijbasi. Aishwarja, opulence, not in his dictionary. Right. So don't upset Swarup Damodar with all this talk." And Swarup Damodar is saying, no, it's not that I don't know what opulence is. I think Srivas, perhaps he's entered a state of temporary insanity. He's forgetting the actual position of Vrndavan. You know, one verse, Brahma Sangita, one verse, Krishna Karnamritam. Remember, when Mahaprabhu toured South India, 2 books he came back with. Brahma Sangita, Krishna Karnamritam. And those books were, he gave to Ramananda, and then all the devotees copied them. So they became familiar with them as well. What is in there? Sriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpa Taravo Druma Bhumi Chintamani Gonamai Toyam Amritam Kataganam Natyaгаmanam Priya Api Mangshi Priya Saki Chidanandam Jyoti Param Tadasvajam Evata. He's saying, in that world, the Toyam Amritam, the water is nectar, the soil is Chintamani gems, Chintamani, Ganamai, Toyam Amritam, all Kataganam, Natyaгаmanam, all speech is song, all movement is dance. And Chintamani is Charana Bhushana Mangananam Sringara Pushpa Taravas Taravasuranam Vrndavanam Brajanam nanukama denu, Vrindani cheti sukha sinduraho vibhuti. And, and what is the opulence there? That soil that is Chintamani gems, he's saying one Chintamani gem has more opulence than the whole Vaikunthas combined. How is that possible? Mahaprabhu in Charitamritam is saying, if you take a vat of sugar, water, sugarcane juice, and then you start condensing it, you get molasses, condense it further, you get gore, condense it further, you get sugar, condense it. In the end, you have one rock of rock candy is this vast amount of sugar concentrated into one drop. He's saying in a similar way, you take all the opulence of Vaikuntha and it can be put into a particle of the soil of Vrndavan, which has been described as Shola Krosh, means around 50 square kilometers is Goloka Vrndavan. I say, well, wait a minute. That's a size we can't even imagine here. 50 square kilometers? The original plane is 50 square kilometers. And within that 50 square kilometer, which appears in this rural setting, in one particle of the soil are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, which are 1 billion by 1 billion. And then in one part of that Vaikuntha sky, a clouded portion at the top, there are the innumerable material universes. So all of this is in one particle of the soil of Goloka Vrindavan, Chintamani Prakadasam, which is composed of Chintamani gems. And he's saying, so now he's taken all of that, when he said, who can compare to this object? He's taken all of that and put it into one particle of the soil of Goloka Vrindavan. He's saying, yes, and there's the trees, Kalpavriksha trees, desire trees, the cows, you say these gopi cows, they're Kamadhenu, desire, wish-fulfilling cow, everything. All the paraphernalia necessary for divine service supplied by them. And that soil, which is made of Chintamani gems, of which one Chintamani gem possesses more opulence than all the Vaikunthas. The Braja Gopis string those Chintamani gems, one after another, to make anklets that they wear on their holy lotus feet. And then Srivas Thakur, he starts dancing. He's so happy. That's what he wanted to come out. That was the purpose of his teasing. So, if in this world you get the opportunity to come in connection with the aspiring servants of the servants of the servants, etc., of such devotees, then you can be considered a Bhagyavanji, to have some good fortune. So Srila Guru Maharaj, in conclusion, devotees ask, then what shall be our service? Right? How does this become meaningful? How do we connect? Right? By the grace of our Guru Varga, some service comes before us that is descended from that plane. But when Srila Guru Maharaj is out, then what should be the service that we perform? And aspiration, service to that plane, he's saying, to acquire the proper angle of vision. Right? The proper angle of vision is coming from these devotees through these statements. Right? That is the idea, that by hearing these expressions, we acquire the proper angle of vision, their angle of vision. And Guru Maharaj says, and to convert yourself into a medium to express these things, to extend these things to others. Hare Krishna. Hari Harai Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namo. Hari Harai Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namo. Yadavaya Vaya Keshavaya Namo. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Garadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghuna. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghuna. Jai Go Jai Kori Charana Vanda. Jaha Hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran. Jai Go Jai Dharmui Tarodas. Bada Padarinu Mora Panchagras. Pandara Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas. Janome Mori Abhilas. Jai Go Jai Jabe Braje Koilovas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash. Anande Boro Hari Vrndavan. Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriya. Bol. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parivraja Kacharya Satara Sata Sri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Ju Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Govinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrndavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Sri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Vishvavaranya Srilesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Bimalabhadut Maharaj Ki Jai. Seva Vrinda Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Dandavat Maharaj. Rajeshwari Didi from Brazil and Ivati Didi. Ajita Krishna Prabhu, Russia. Dhananjaya Prabhu, Russia. Suchitra Didi, St. Petersburg. Bhakta Bandhu Prabhu, Philippines. Keshavananda Prabhu, Dandavat from the Lone Star State. That's a quote.
Texas.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Gaur Prabhu, Tapanandi Didi, Sebastian Leguiziamo. Kalindi Priya Didi from Milan, Rasananda Prabhu from Sochi, Atula Krishna Prabhu and Madhavi Didi from Hungary, Tai Tella Tulasi Didi, Yamuna Didi and Priyanana Didi from Gupta Govardhan subdivision nearby. Kanu Priya Didi, London, and Madhumita Didi, I hope I'm right, Dandavat to Maharaj, the shining beacon, I'm not sure, and to all the amazing devotees. And the last one, Ashapurna Didi and Balaram Prabhu Moscow.
Hare Krishna. Dhanyavad. And Sri Hari Prabhu Dhanyavad, thank you for your question. Hare Krishna. Where is this? Yes. Abhazia. Dhanyavad. Hare Krishna. Bhakta Bandhu Prabhu in Philippines, Dhanyavad. Dhananjaya Prabhu, Dhanyavad. Sankalpa Didi in Shanghai, Dhanyavad. Nityananda Das here, Dhanyavad. Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu in Vrndavan, Dhanyavad. He's in that Vrndavan, where the Chintamani gems are, in the soil. If you have the vision to see that, Lalita Priya Didi, Dhanyavad. Dhanyavad Madhavi, Dhanyavad Atula Krishna Prabhu, Dhanyavad Gokula Tarini and Abhazia, Dhanyavad Braja Sundari Didi and Israel, Dhanyavad Shamala Didi, Dhanyavad Anandita Didi, Dhanyavad Hare Krishna Gaurachandra Prabhu, Dhanyavad Madhavi Lata Didi, Dhanyavad Ajita Krishna Prabhu, Dhanyavad Abhiram Prabhu, Dhanyavad Ananta Shesh Prabhu in Spain, Dhanyavad. Here's Rishikesh Maharaj, not sure where he is at present, but Dhanyavad. And Ekadashi deity and the beautiful deities and the Tonks temple. Hey Krishna, so beautiful. Tribanga Radharani there. Here, Dhanyavad deity, she's in China. I think she's friend of Sushmita Dhanyavad. And Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj. Dandavat. He appears to be on parikrama. He's eternally on parikrama. O Darjalila, Dandavat Didi, Dharini Sundari Didi, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Damodar, Bijay, Gurujit, Aurora, Sulakshana, of course, she's here. Yuvati is here. All right, I think that's everyone. Panchakalpatribhyascha kripa sindhu vyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. My dandavats to one and all. Hare Krishna. Dandavat.